Good afternoon. Welcome to Friday's Inside Look by Brooks. Steve Brooks here. Hope everybody had a great week. Here in Florida, the weather's been absolutely gorgeous. Chamber of Commerce weather. Wish we could have it like this all year long, especially in the summer when it gets up in the 90s and the humidity is like 90%. We've got an ambulance going by right now. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, with truck accidents, because truck accidents can be horrific because of just the 80,000 pound vehicle. Those are going to be bad accidents. And when there's a death involved, many times Florida's wrongful death statute has some nuances to it that I want to talk about today. So many times people get the wrongful death statute confused when we're talking about wrongful death versus wrongful death in a medical setting. So wrongful death, like in an auto accident or a premises case, is going to be different than in a medical setting, such as medical malpractice. So, and it gets even more dicey when we talk about adult children. So in our daily practice, we see clients come in, a horrific accident, their father or mother was killed in a truck accident, and they're coming to us to pursue a wrongful death claim for them. So in some ways, adult children are discriminated against in the wrongful death statute. I just want to read it to you. So it's chapter 768.21 of the Florida statutes. Most all potential beneficiaries of a recovery for wrongful death, including the decedent's estate, shall be identified in the complaint, and their relationships to the decedent shall be alleged. Damages may be awarded as follows. Minor children, and minor children is defined as someone 25 years or younger, and all children of the decedent, if there is no surviving spouse, may recover. So what that's saying is, if the parent that was wrongfully killed in a truck accident, has minor children, then those minor children have a claim. An adult child, meaning you're 26 or older, is going to have a claim if there's no spouse. So, there's no discrimination against adult children if there is a spouse. If there is no spouse, if there is a spouse, then adult children don't have a claim. So, to kind of sum this up, I read an interesting case from the fourth district Court of Appeals here in Florida, and the appellate court, might have had the medical malpractice statute exclusion for wrongful death damages in mind when it wrote the opinion, because the medical negligence as it relates to wrongful death will limit the recovery of an adult children, even spouse or no spouse. Adult children, just there's no recovery. As a side note, before I get into the opinion, if you're an adult in the state of Florida, you go into the hospital, someone commits malpractice, you don't have minor children, and you don't have a wife. Let's say you're a widower and you have 2 adult children, and a doctor commits malpractice. Here's the state of the law. If you die, essentially your malpractice claim dies with you. If you live, you can sue the doctor that committed the malpractice. Now, unfortunately, the untalked about consequence of that is subconsciously, if that doctor who's treating you has committed malpractice, subconsciously he or she is better off if you die than if you survive. So that lends a real ominous situation for adults in the state of Florida. I don't think any doctor would purposely, if they've committed malpractice and you were like 50-50, you could live, you could die. I don't think any doctor would purposely not render you the appropriate care so you would survive. But there is that subconscious element that, the reptilian brain, who knows how that's going to drive someone's efforts. So it's the medical lobby in the state of Florida is very powerful. But the 4th District, in this opinion, I think this was in September of 2018, it was a tobacco case, and an individual had smoked and gotten lung cancer and died, and her adult child, who was independent, wasn't dependent on the deceased, sued, and got a multi-million-dollar award. And the 4th District said, no, that was too much. That essentially, that someone who is not dependent on the deceased could do, would not need that amount of money. And in essence, they held that its conclusion was, no matter how strong the emotional bond between an adult child and a decedent parent may be, an adult child who lives independent of the parent during the parent's smoking-related illness and death is not entitled to a multi-million-dollar compensatory damages award. So this District Court of Appeal took it upon themselves to basically make law, because there is no law limiting the amount of recovery. This was an adult child. The only exception, the only thing that adult child had to get over, the only hurdle in that adult child's way, is if there was a spouse of the deceased. If there's a spouse, the adult child does not recover. If there is no spouse, the adult child can recover like a minor child could. So this went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said no. The Supreme Court said the sole requirement for an adult child to recover economic damages for the wrongful death of his or her parent is that the parent must not be survived by a spouse. That is it. That is the sole reason. And the 4th District tried to add additional reasons, like it didn't seem logical, or it didn't support, their idea of what was reasonable. So in my opinion, that was the Supreme Court, who did a wonderful job of saying, no, the courts aren't supposed to make law, let's follow the law. Anyway, I say all that to say that the Wrongful Death Act can be very confusing. So if you've heard one thing about, can an adult child recover or can an adult child not recover, don't just assume that whoever's telling you that knows what they're talking about. Call an attorney. Call me. I'll be glad to talk to you about the nuances of the Wrongful Death Act. If you have any questions, my email is steve@brookslawgroup.com. I'll be glad to talk to you and answer any questions. In the meantime, I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend and that you enjoy your friends and family on this beautiful Florida weekend. So thanks for joining me, and look forward to seeing you next Friday. Thanks.